I was able to land a summer research internship at one of the top institutions in the country. And today I'll be sharing my experiences and what I believed helped me to land this position. I would appreciate if you hit the like and subscribe button. We are on the road to 20 subscribers, and I know that we can get there by the end of this month. Without further ado, let's get into this video. So for 10 weeks, I conducted research at the University of Pennsylvania. I was paired up with two mentors who taught me the ins and outs of research. I'm talking about from the beginning to starting up a research project, the middle to actually conducting the research, and the end, writing manuscripts and pitching your next project. To say the least, it was a busy summer. So I was working Monday through Friday, 9 to 5, splitting my time between the two mentors, just helping out wherever I can and learning everything about research. Now, prior to this position, I had zero, zilch, nada, nothing. I didn't have any research experience, so I honestly didn't know what to expect. I kind of thought research was only like in the lab, kind of like what I was doing in my general chemistry classes, and boy, was I wrong. So I think it's so important when you're looking for a research internship to align your interests. Like I said, there's so many different research that you can do. I think it's so important to narrow down what exactly you want to do, and that'll be a better shot of you applying and actually getting the role. One of my first clinical experiences was a home health aide for a man who had dementia. And I can remember this was years ago, and I had so many questions about this space, specifically individuals who are impacted by neurodegenerative diseases, and also how can that affect the families. And it was something that was just in the back of my mind, and I really didn't know how to explore it further until I realized that I can blend the two things that I wanted to try out, which is research and closely working with those who are impacted by neurodegenerative illnesses. So it's important to narrow down your list specifically when you're looking for research internships. So when I came across a position where I can work with the neurodegenerative community, it really kind of lit me on fire because I was very passionate about learning more about what I did not know and how I can help in any way. So my one mentor was a geriatrician. They're all under the same kind of like multiverse, I guess you could call it. They're all under the same universe of the Penn Memory Center. Anything to do with older adults who are suffering with, memory issues and things of that nature. So there, the majority of my time I was helping out run a clinic who were trying to uptake vaccinations specifically in underserved area. And while talking to these patients, I was able to understand the barriers to healthcare. The study involved how can we first identify those barriers to healthcare and how can we address them. So I got pretty lucky in my two mentors, first even having two mentors for me to work with, and also a lot of their studies that they were doing were coming to the tail end. What's next after that? Writing the manuscript to submit to journals and articles. When I wasn't spending my time in the clinic, I was helping, write different sections of the manuscript, putting sentences together, really learning how to write a manuscript and the language of it and how it's so different from publisher to publisher. This publisher might want you to style it in this way, or let's change the language up a little bit there because we've had publications before and this is how they want it. I was reading a lot and a lot and a lot of articles, which I loved. I love reading and seeing other people's work and passion for making the world a better place. So it was all very fun for me, to be honest. Skills are transferable. When you're looking for these research internships and you get to a point where you get an interview, speak up about yourself. Don't speak down on yourself. Specifically in the pre-med space, right? We take general chemistry and we've all done lab reports, right? We've written introductions before. We've looked at data and analyzed it and come to a conclusion. And while I was doing my research internship, I was able to look back on the things that I did in that chemistry class and bring it to helping writing the manuscript, right? Because prior, I knew how to write an introduction. I know how to look at data and analyze it. It's just in a different space, but I still have those basic skills of how to do that. And you can always be taught how to do things, right? So really look to what you have, where you are, and I think this is important. Don't lie about anything you can't do, you know. I'm sure wherever you apply for your research internship, they'll meet you where you're at. I was able to sit down with my mentor and have a conversation about, okay, here's what I've kind of done that sounds similar to what you guys do in school. Here's what I want to do. Here's what I've never done before. Have a plan on what you want to get done, what you want to be taught, and how you want your summer to go. You know, when I was sitting with the program coordinator, I remember having a conversation. I told them straight up, you know, in the interview, I have zero research experience. And what would be the most important thing for me is to learn everything. I want to learn the before, the beginning, the after. And thankfully, that was what I was able to do for those amazing 10 weeks. A lot of the times I get so anxious and nervous when I'm in a new room that I've never been in before, and there's so much people that are smarter than you, and you just like trying to figure out where you fit in. But if they have your best interests in heart, they're going to build you up. They're going to challenge you, right? You still want to be challenged, but if they want you to grow, they'll give you those opportunities to grow. Another thing that I think is really important is to look internally before you look externally. Prior to this research internship, I was already working at one of UPenn's hospitals. And I don't believe that was the sole thing that got me the research internship. But when looking at other applicants, if I'm already in that space and have a recommendation letter from my manager who's able to vouch for my character and my work ethic, then, you know, that's something that probably pushed my paper to the top of the pile versus another individual who came from a different school or had no prior affiliations with UPenn. So my cohort consisted of about, I believe there was like 10 of us, and I think only me and one other person was, you know, prior affiliated with the institution, like, you know, working or a student at the University of Pennsylvania. Look at your inner network, and if you don't have an inner network, then build one. Another video coming soon on that. So that was kind of what I did with my one mentor. So let's flip over to the other mentor that I split my time with. And we have such an amazing relationship. I'm still working with this individual to this day. I did this research internship last summer, and I'm now working with her study this summer. So it's just so important to jump in and say yes and just be a great person, because you never know if that person wants to work with you again. And that's exactly what happened. And I'm having a blast doing all of this. So I would really call this individual a mad scientist, because we were doing so much different things. So she was working with AI assisted stuffed animals that were given to patients on the dementia unit to kind of decrease their anxiety and aggression. The thing I did the most with her was in the ER. There was this web mobile application where you can interact with dogs. So it was kind of like a replacement for in-person dog therapy where, you know, the volunteer would come with the dog. Instead, you were able to play a game on the phone, and it had a little button wheel where the individual could click different things and interact with the dog, play with the dog. You can tell the dog to go to sleep. A lot of individuals that go to the ER because of the high wait times don't ever get seen. So that was piloted in the ER to specifically combat that and see if, you know, those scores could improve. And really the main thing was to decrease anxiety and decrease violence in the workplace in the ER, because in the past has had a lot of like violence towards the staff from individuals coming into the ER. So this was something to implement to see if we can cool down and relax on that and try to have everybody zen while they wait to get called back into the ER. So your boy's role, what was my role in that? So we would have like a iPad that we would show all the individuals this game, and just spread the word that it was available. And if anybody wanted to play or put it on their phone, they were able to download it straight from like a QR code. Like you didn't have to go into the App Store and download it, but you can, scan it with your QR code and then press download and it'll be on your phone as if you downloaded it from the App Store. So any of the individuals who did wind it up engaging with the app, we would conduct a survey, kind of ask them what was their reason for being in the hospital, what was their anxiety before playing the game, after playing the game, how easy was the app to use, and just some basic demographic questions. I believe the goal was to get around 88 surveys. We started off with like 15 at the beginning of the summer, and we got to like maybe like 60 or 70. So I feel as though, I did a good job in putting them well on their way to achieving all of the 88 surveys that they needed. Yeah, so that was last year, and now in this moment, I am helping to write the manuscript for all the things that happen with that study and the outcomes. So, like I said, it's very exciting stuff. And sometimes you just got to grind, and then later on, you'll see the fruits of your labor. As a pre-med, I would say keep an open mind about any and everything. Like, you're here to learn, you're here to experience. Like, don't shoot something down because you feel like it's dumb or like you've never done it before, so you show no interest. I loved that I got a taste for everything because I was able to pinpoint, okay, I love this. Okay, I don't know if I like doing that. Wow, I really do like, the clinical research aspect and talking to patients. I don't know if I would have done this if this was this way or that way. So my experience really showed me like down the line, like what do I want to do and how do I want to incorporate that in my day to day as a physician. So what did I get from my summer internship at the University of Pennsylvania? I learned the ins and outs and everything of how to conduct clinical research. Research taught me that you have to be curious in this life, and the moment we stop being curious is the moment that, in my opinion, everything becomes stagnant. I also learned a lot about mentorship, how to be there for somebody else, how to network, how to expand your horizon, how to talk to other people and other students, teachers, physician researchers, and be in a space where you can all collaborate, when there's so many different parts and pieces to coming together to the project, you got to know, what your role is and how you can help out and what you can do to better the study. Like, for example, I love to tell this story. So obviously me coming from a younger generation, I'm more like tech savvy with the phone. So we ran into a problem where some individuals in the ER, they didn't have a camera to scan the QR code. Like they had a, touchscreen phone, but they didn't have a QR scanner on their camera. So I thought, hey, why don't we type the QR code or the website that it takes it to into their web search, and then that could take it directly to the application. It felt great to solve a problem, a small, tiny problem in the study, because then it was able to be expanded to way more individuals in the ER who didn't have a QR scanner on their phone. And another thing that kind of was reinforced back into my mind is, focus on the other individual, right? A lot of this world is me, 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 and what can I do for me? How can I advance my career? Let's check this off the list. And I just feel as though that's what the world needs more of, leaning into each other and listening to other people's problems and figuring out how we can get through it together. It was an amazing experience. I wouldn't trade it for the world. I'm very blessed and so happy that I was one of the individuals that was that was picked and able to experience this because, I really honestly, truly don't think I would be the same person without this internship. It changed my life and it affected me so much. So yeah, at the end, we were required to make a mini presentation on what we did this summer. So the other 9 people that was in my cohort, they got paired off with different mentors. We all didn't have the same mentors. So it was nice to come back because, we were together with each other, that first week for 8 hours, 9 hours, being taught things and interacting with each other. So at the end, it was nice to see each other and see, what they did and, kind of have a conversation about how we all missed each other. Medicine is such a collaborative space, and I just love teamwork and collaboration. I played football for 10 years, okay? It's just instilled in me at this point. But yeah, that was my experience as a summer research institution at the University of Pennsylvania. I'm sure I left out so many things, but those were the core things that I think I wanted to talk about and just kind of sit down and have this conversation. So if you enjoy these videos, I'm banging out more content. I'm on content. I'm on content. You feel what I'm saying? Like I want to produce more of these videos and just keep growing, keep, improving my storytelling. So if you stay to the end of the video, I appreciate you 1,100 times a million%. There's more videos on the way. I have more videos in the vault that is, getting prepared and made to upload. So if you love this content, the pre-med lifestyle, just being a college student and, working towards applying to medical school, I would appreciate if you hit that like and subscribe button because there's way more content on the way. And as always, I'll see you in the next one.